The enigmatic shadows of Los Dynamos, unveiling the horrors beyond the sunlit facade. Scary story. The Dynamos, a horror story. In the world of mystery enthusiasts, Los Dynamos is one of the hidden gems, with many tales surrounding this forest in Mexico City classified as a national park. Numerous things are said about this site, some more incredible than others, but the widespread discussion about Los Dynamos suggests there's something extraordinary happening. It would be unlikely for so many people to talk about a place where nothing unusual occurs. Platforms like Reddit and Facebook groups are good places to investigate. While this forest may not be in the spotlight during the day, it's a wonderful place visited by families, friends, and young couples. Children play around with swings and other games, making it quite a welcoming spot. The view of the river is beautiful, one of the best I had seen until then. However, I wasn't there for that. I was searching for anything that could give me my own story about this mysterious place. After taking a look around, I returned to the hotel, eagerly awaiting the night. I admit, I was nervous and a bit scared because one of the many tales about this site involved a witch cult conducting rituals there. I mentioned to the taxi driver who took me to the hotel that I planned to return at night. He told me he had a colleague living nearby who could take me at night and wait for me to bring me back to the hotel, but it would cost me quite a bit. I said that wasn't a problem, and he gave me his colleague's number. In the evening, I called the taxi driver to pick me up from the hotel and take me to Los Dynamos. To my surprise, I wasn't alone when I returned at night. Clearly, there weren't as many people, but at a glance, I could count about 7 individuals. I know it's not much, but honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone. Anyway, I started to venture into the forest, always illuminating with my phone's flashlight. I'm not a nature expert. Before going there, the only natural place I had explored was Chippinquay, so I had little experience. To avoid getting lost, I had planned something. I brought several long-range LED lights in my backpack that ran on solar power. Obviously, I had charged them before going into the forest. I am not an expert in these technological things, but having friends who studied has its advantages. I would leave one on the ground, turn it on, move until I could barely see the light, and then place another. That's how I went on. Perhaps I had watched too many movies, but I wasn't going to play the adventurer in such a strange place. I walked a good distance, at least 5 kilometers, crossed the river, and then I found what I had come to seek. On the ground, amid the trees, there was a bunch of branches tied with hair. All these branches were arranged to form an almost perfect and quite large circle. Los Dinamos Horror Story. Inside the circle, on the ground, there were drawings made with chalk or something similar. They were pink triangles interconnected only at some of their tips. I don't know if it was something satanic, but it definitely looked like it. I took some photos. My phone didn't have the resolution of today's phones, but it was somewhat clear. It might be blurry, yes, but with some editing, it would be perfect. A part of me said that it was enough, that I should turn around and distance myself before encountering something really dangerous. But another part of me, the one addicted to mysteries, told me to keep going deeper. So I continued foolishly, not for any other reason. Perhaps I advanced for about half an hour until I started hearing something that definitely wasn't part of the sounds of nature. It was drums or something similar. I'm not familiar with instruments, but it was percussion and it had a certain rhythm. I slowed down my pace because I wanted to pay close attention to that noise. As I got closer, I could gradually hear something other than the drum's strange noises, like women's voices. The more I advanced, a sense of insecurity began to creep through my body. I could feel the danger multiplying with each step I took, but for some reason, something inside me wouldn't let me turn back. Suddenly, something cracked beneath my feet. I pointed my phone's flashlight at the ground and realized it was a candle. I scanned the entire area and noticed I was in the middle of a place where witchcraft practices took place, as there were many strange things. There were dead birds, and small dolls were tied to the trees. Then something jumped through the trees. I turned, scared, and shone the light. It was a squirrel. But I had turned to look up. I realized I was at the foot of a mountain. It turns out that among the many things said about Los Dynamos, there's talk of a mountain with a cave from which fireballs emerge. It's also said that on the summit of this mountain, naked women, presumably witches from the witch cult I mentioned earlier, often climb. So I assumed, given my surroundings, that I was at the base of that same mountain. Any person with more than one brain cell would have turned back, but I've never been very smart. I told myself, keep going, but if you find anything else, run. I hadn't gone even 100 meters when I found a bone lying around. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if it was a human bone, but that didn't matter. It was a bone, and it seemed to be burned as if it had been used for a bonfire or some strange witchcraft. That was enough for me. I turned around and started running as fast as I could, always following the LED lights. I never heard anyone following me, but I felt observed, as if all the trees had eyes and were watching, waiting for me to stumble to devour me. I kept running until I reached the river, and after slipping on one of the rocks that allowed me to cross to the other side, I fell straight into the water. Fortunately, I quickly got out of the river. I fear water, and if I panicked, I could have drowned. After getting back on my feet, I continued my journey, not running as fast, for two reasons. Firstly, I had injured one leg when falling into the river, and secondly, my phone's flashlight was no longer working. I exited the forest, and the taxi driver was still there. Thankfully, he had waited for me. I had to wait for my clothes to dry a bit to avoid wetting the taxi, and then he took me back to the hotel. Los Dynamos hides many secrets, and although I do want to go back, I'm afraid that next time I may not be as lucky. There's still some strange tale missing from someone who visited the site. Truth be told, I became quite obsessed with the topic. So, one day, after saving for many months, I took a flight from Monterrey to Mexico City determined to explore Los Dynamos. Thank you for joining us for this spine-tingling story. We hope you found it both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider participating in our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. Your support goes a long way in helping us create more engaging content for you. Goodbye, and may you always tread carefully in the world of the unknown.